His parents abandoned him because of his appearance. Years later, he pays them an unexpected visit. When this little boy was born, his parents, Eleanor and Jack, were so shocked by his appearance that they felt they couldn't care for him and decided to give him up. But decades later, fate brought them back together in the most unexpected way. Eleanor and Jack were a loving couple who lived in a small, modest apartment on the outskirts of the city. Their love for each other was undeniable, but their financial situation was a constant struggle. Jack worked long hours at a factory, while Eleanor took on various odd jobs to make ends meet. Despite their hardships, they dreamed of having a child, believing that a baby would bring a new sense of joy and purpose into their lives. Their dream came true when Eleanor discovered she was pregnant. The couple was overjoyed and spent months preparing for the arrival of their child. They decorated a small corner of their apartment with secondhand baby items and imagined a future filled with laughter and happiness. However, their joy was soon overshadowed by concern when Oliver was born. Oliver entered the world on a stormy night, and from the moment they saw him, Eleanor and Jack knew their lives would never be the same. Oliver was born with a pronounced hump on his back and a condition called hypertrichosis, which caused thick, dark hair to cover much of his body. The doctors explained that his condition was rare and would require ongoing medical attention. The pressure of caring for a child with such unique needs quickly became overwhelming for Eleanor and Jack. The medical bills piled up, and the couple struggled to keep up with the costs. Meanwhile, their neighbors and even some family members began to distance themselves, whispering behind their backs and treating Oliver as an oddity. The social pressure and financial strain took a toll on the couple, and their once loving home became a place of stress and despair. In a desperate attempt to find a solution, Eleanor and Jack decided to ask Jack's parents for help. They hoped that Oliver's grandparents would be willing to adopt him and provide the care and support he needed. They traveled to Jack's parents' home, a modest but well-kept house in a small town, and explained their situation. Jack's parents listened to their son's plea with heavy hearts. However, when they saw Oliver, their expressions changed. They exchanged uneasy glances, and Jack's father finally spoke. "We can't take him in," he said, his voice filled with regret. "We're too old to handle a child with such needs. It would be too much for us to manage." Eleanor and Jack were devastated by their rejection. They had hoped that family would be the answer, but now they felt even more isolated and hopeless. Feeling utterly defeated and believing they could not provide Oliver with the life he deserved, Eleanor and Jack made a heart-wrenching decision. Early one cold morning, with tears streaming down their faces, they wrapped Oliver in a blanket and left him on the steps of a nearby orphanage. They included a note, explaining his condition and their hope that he would find a family who could care for him better than they could. The orphanage was a large, imposing building with weathered brick walls and a rusty sign. Inside, the atmosphere was a mix of children's laughter and cries. Oliver's arrival was met with a mix of curiosity and pity from the other children. His condition made him an instant target for bullies, and he often found himself isolated, trying to make sense of why his parents had abandoned him. 6 years passed before Oliver's life took a turn for the better. One sunny afternoon, the matron of the orphanage called him to her office. Sitting there were Amelia and Simon, an older couple with kind eyes and warm smiles. They had no children of their own and were looking to adopt. The moment they saw Oliver, they felt an instant connection. They saw past his physical differences and recognized the bright, curious boy within. Amelia knelt down to Oliver's level, her eyes filled with kindness. "Hello, Oliver," she said softly. "We've heard so much about you. Would you like to come home with us?" Oliver, holding his small suitcase, looked up at her and then at Simon, who nodded encouragingly. With a mixture of hope and apprehension, Oliver nodded. From that moment, his life changed. Amelia and Simon brought him to their warm, welcoming home. It was filled with books, soft furniture, and the smell of freshly baked bread. Oliver felt an unfamiliar but comforting sense of belonging. Despite the loving environment at home, school remained a challenge for Oliver. His appearance made him a target for bullies, and he often felt alone and misunderstood. However, Amelia and Simon were steadfast in their support. They encouraged Oliver to focus on his studies and assured him that his worth was not defined by his appearance. Amelia, in particular, had a profound influence on Oliver. She constantly reminded him of his potential and encouraged him to pursue his dreams, no matter how challenging they seemed. Inspired by his adoptive mother's words and determined to make a difference, Oliver decided he wanted to help others who faced similar challenges. He became fascinated with the idea of becoming a plastic surgeon, a profession that would allow him to help people improve their appearances and, by extension, their lives. He spent countless hours in the library, studying anatomy books and medical journals, fueling his passion for medicine. When the time came, Oliver applied to several medical schools. His hard work and dedication paid off when he was accepted into a prestigious medical program. Amelia and Simon were overjoyed and immensely proud of him. The night before he left for college, they sat together in their living room, sharing stories and reminiscing about their years together. Oliver felt a deep sense of gratitude for the love and support they had given him. Oliver's journey through medical school was filled with challenges. He faced long hours of study and rigorous training, but he remained focused on his goal of becoming a plastic surgeon. The support of his adoptive parents and his unwavering determination kept him going, even when the road seemed impossibly difficult. One fateful day, while working at the hospital during his residency, Oliver was called into the emergency room for a critical case. A woman had been in a severe car accident and required immediate plastic surgery. As Oliver prepared for the surgery, he noticed a man in the waiting room who bore a striking resemblance to himself. The man's features were eerily similar, and Oliver couldn't shake the feeling that there was a connection. After the successful surgery, Oliver went to speak with the woman and her companion. The woman, still groggy from the anesthesia, thanked Oliver profusely for saving her. She mentioned that she and her husband had once had a child with similar health issues but had been unable to care for him. She didn't recognize Oliver, but her words struck a chord deep within him. Oliver decided to dig deeper into his past. He contacted the orphanage where he had spent his early years and requested access to his records. After several weeks of anxious waiting, he received a file that contained information about his biological parents. As he read through the documents, the pieces of his past began to fall into place. The names Eleanor and Jack, the descriptions, and even the circumstances of his abandonment matched what he had experienced. Realizing that the woman he had operated and the man were indeed his biological parents, Oliver was overwhelmed with emotion. He had the opportunity to confront them, to reveal who he was and the pain he had endured. However, Oliver chose a different path. He decided to forgive them in his heart without revealing his true identity. He understood the difficult circumstances they had faced and felt a sense of peace in letting go of the past. With this newfound understanding and acceptance, Oliver continued his work with a renewed sense of purpose. He was more determined than ever to help those who faced similar challenges and to make a positive impact in the world. Through his journey, Oliver learned the true meaning of forgiveness and the power of compassion, transforming not only his life but the lives of countless others. Decades after Oliver's birth, Eleanor and Jack had grown old. Life had taken its toll on them in ways they had never imagined. They lived in the same small apartment, their love for each other still strong but their spirits weighed down by regret and sorrow. The decision to abandon Oliver had haunted them every day. They never spoke of it, but the pain was always present, a silent specter in their lives. One cold winter evening, as they sat in their living room, a knock on the door broke the silence. Jack, now frail and slow, got up to answer it. When he opened the door, he was met with a sight that took his breath away. Standing there was a tall, handsome man with kind eyes and an air of confidence. It was Oliver. Eleanor joined Jack at the door, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Oliver," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. Oliver smiled gently. "Hello, Eleanor." "Jack, it's been a long time." They invited him in, their hearts pounding with a mix of joy, fear, and shame. They sat together in the living room, the air thick with unspoken words. Finally, Jack broke the silence. "We've thought about you every day," he said, his voice trembling. "We're so sorry for what we did. We were young and scared. We didn't know how to take care of you." Eleanor nodded, tears streaming down her face. "We've regretted it every single day. We hoped you would find a better life than we could give you." Oliver listened, his heart aching for the pain they had endured. "I understand," he said softly. "It took me a long time, but I learned to forgive. I've had a good life, thanks to the people who adopted me. They gave me love and support, and I was able to become a doctor." Jack and Eleanor exchanged a look of amazement and pride. "A doctor?" Jack repeated, his voice filled with awe. "That's incredible, Oliver." Oliver smiled. "I wanted to help people, to make a difference. And in a way, it was because of you. Your decision, as painful as it was, set me on a path that led me to where I am today." They talked late into the night, sharing their stories and reconnecting in a way that none of them had ever imagined possible. For Jack and Eleanor, it was a chance to seek redemption, to find some measure of peace in knowing that Oliver had found happiness and success. For Oliver, it was an opportunity to close a painful chapter of his life and move forward with a heart full of forgiveness and understanding. In the months that followed, Oliver visited his biological parents regularly. He helped them with their medical needs and brought a sense of joy and purpose back into their lives. They became a family again, bonded not by blood alone, but by a shared journey of pain, forgiveness, and ultimately, love. Eleanor and Jack passed away within a few years of each other, but they did so with a sense of peace, knowing that they had been forgiven and that their son had grown into a remarkable man. Oliver, now a successful plastic surgeon, continued to honor their memory by helping others and spreading a message of compassion and forgiveness wherever he went. Oliver's story became well known in the medical community and beyond. He often spoke at conferences and seminars, sharing his journey and the lessons he had learned. His work as a plastic surgeon helped countless individuals regain their confidence and self-esteem, and his story of overcoming adversity inspired many more. Through his work and his life, Oliver exemplified the power of resilience, forgiveness, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. He had turned his pain into purpose, and in doing so, had created a legacy that would live on for generations to come. In the end, Oliver found peace not only in his own heart, but also in the knowledge that he had made a difference in the lives of others. He understood that his journey, while marked by hardship and loss, had ultimately led him to a place of profound compassion and understanding. And in that knowledge, he found a deep and abiding sense of fulfillment.